I remember the exact day my grandson was born. It was raining softly, the kind of rain that makes everything feel washed clean, like the world is starting over. I was standing in the hospital hallway with a cup of cold coffee in my hands when the nurse smiled and said, "It's a boy." At that moment, something shifted inside me. I didn't know then how deeply my life would orbit around that child. I didn't know how much of myself I would give. I only knew one thing with certainty. I would always be there for him. His name was Daniel. From the moment he learned to walk, he followed me everywhere. He called me Grandma, but sometimes when he was very small, it came out as Gamma. I still hear it in my dreams. When his parents divorced, Daniel was only 6. His father disappeared slowly, like fog lifting in the morning. First, fewer visits, then missed birthdays, then silence. His mother, my daughter, worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, and I stepped in without thinking. Not because I was asked, because love doesn't wait to be requested. I picked him up from school, I cooked his favorite meals, I helped with homework at my old wooden table, one with scratches from decades of life. At night, when his mother came home exhausted, I tucked him in. I told him stories. I promised him things I believed with my whole heart. "Work hard," I used to say, brushing his hair gently, "and one day you'll have a life bigger than all our struggles." He believed me, and I believed him. The promise. When Daniel was in high school, he came home one afternoon holding a letter in his shaking hands. "Grandma," he said, breathless, "I got accepted." A good university, not the cheapest one, not the closest one either, but the kind that opens doors. I watched his face glow with hope, and I felt something familiar tighten in my chest. Pride, fear, love. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my old metal box. Inside were my savings, money I had put aside, slowly, quietly, over decades. Money meant for emergencies, for my old age. I thought about Daniel's future. I thought about my own remaining years. And I made a decision. The next morning, I told him, "Don't worry about tuition. I'll help." He hugged me so tight my ribs hurt. "I'll pay you back," he promised, "when I graduate, I swear." I smiled and nodded. I didn't say what I was thinking. You don't owe me anything. 4 years. College changed Daniel. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. The phone calls became shorter, the visits less frequent, the affection thinner. Still, every semester I paid. Tuition, books, housing when his scholarship didn't cover it. I told myself it was normal. Young people grow, they get busy. Whenever doubt crept in, I reminded myself why I was doing this. Love is not a transaction, I thought. Love gives without counting. Sometimes, though, late at night, I counted anyway. I counted the checks, the transfers, the sacrifices. I skipped trips. I said no to repairs. I wore the same old coat another winter. And every time I told myself, it's worth it. The silence. In his final year, Daniel barely called. I didn't want to bother him. I knew finals were hard, so I waited. One morning, I opened Facebook while drinking my tea, and there it was, a post from one of his friends. "Graduation week, can't believe we made it." My heart skipped. Graduation week. I checked my messages. Nothing. I refreshed. Still nothing. I told myself maybe the ceremony was later. Maybe details weren't finalized. But then more photos appeared. Caps, gowns, family members hugging students. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. That evening, I finally called him. "Daniel," I said carefully, "when's your graduation?" There was a pause, a long one. "Oh, it was today," he said. "Today?" I gripped the phone harder. "Today?" I repeated softly. "Why didn't you tell me?" Another pause. "We only had limited tickets. I invited my mom and her husband." That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just that. The moment. I didn't cry right away. After we hung up, I sat very still. I stared at the wall. I listened to the ticking clock that had been with me longer than Daniel had been alive. I thought about the nights I stayed up worrying about tuition deadlines, the mornings I stood in line at the bank, the pride I carried in my chest for 4 years. And suddenly, the truth landed, gently but firmly. I was useful, not essential. I was part of the process, not part of the celebration. That night, I took out all the paperwork, every receipt, every transfer, every check. I added it up. $68,000. 68,000. My hands trembled as I closed the folder. The call that changed everything. 2 weeks later, Daniel called. "Grandma," he said cheerfully, "I'm moving to a new city. I need help with a deposit, just until I get my first paycheck." I closed my eyes. For a moment, the old instinct surged. Help him, protect him, fix it. But something inside me was different now. "Daniel," I said calmly, "do you remember your graduation day?" "Of course." "Do you remember who paid for your education?" Silence. "I do," I continued, "and I also remember not being invited." He stammered. "Grandma, I didn't mean—" "I know," I interrupted gently. "And that's exactly the problem. The boundary." I told him the truth, not with anger, not with accusation, just facts. "I supported you because I loved you, but love does not mean invisibility. It does not mean being remembered only when money is needed." He tried to apologize. He tried to explain, but some moments don't need explanations. They need acceptance. "I won't be sending any more money," I said softly. "This is not punishment. This is clarity." He was quiet for a long time. "I didn't realize," he finally whispered. "I know," I replied, "and that's exactly the problem." Life became quieter after that, but it also became lighter. I joined a book club. I traveled for the first time in years. I spent money on myself, without guilt. Daniel's though calls sometimes. Our relationship is different now. More careful, more honest. I still love him. That never changed. But I finally learned something I wish I had known earlier. Being generous should never require erasing yourself. And every night, as I sit by my window with a cup of tea, I remind myself, I didn't lose a grandson. I gained my dignity back. And that was worth more than any graduation ceremony.